He played through it for a month. A whole month. While the Yankees were winning games, Aaron Judge was hiding something. And when it finally came out, when the secret became impossible to keep, Aaron Boone snapped at a reporter on live television. And what he said next should terrify every single Yankees fan on the planet. Here is what nobody told you about the Aaron Judge injury story. The stress fracture in his first rib? It did not happen on May 31st, when the Yankees finally pulled him from the lineup. Judge himself admitted it probably happened in April, during a diving play in a series against the Houston Astros. April. He played through a stress fracture in his rib for an entire month. Went to the plate. Hit home runs. Ran the bases. Dove in the outfield. With a broken rib. And the Yankees either did not know or did not want to know. And then when the truth finally came out and reporters started asking Aaron Boone the hard questions, the questions about timelines and specialists, and when exactly their three-time MVP was coming back, Boone did something that nobody in that press room expected. He snapped. He fired back at a reporter and said, and I am quoting him directly here, "Was my opening not good enough?" That is the manager of the New York Yankees, visibly frustrated, visibly rattled, in front of cameras. And the question you need to ask yourself right now is, why? Why would a manager that comfortable and that experience lose his composure over a routine injury question? Unless the answer to that question is far worse than what he has been telling the public. Today we are going inside every piece of this story. And we are not stopping until we find the truth. This channel goes where the comfortable coverage does not go. Hit subscribe right now, because today's breakdown has the most complete and most honest picture of what is actually happening with Aaron Judge, Aaron Boone, and the New York Yankees season. Let's get all the way in. Let us go back to June 4th. Because that is the day everything changed. The Yankees had been winning. 40 wins and 26 losses through the first couple months of the season, one of the best records in the American League. Aaron Judge had gone on a tear in April. 3 home runs in 1 week. The kind of numbers that remind the baseball world why he is a 3-time MVP and the unquestioned best player on the most famous franchise in American sports. The Yankees looked like a machine. They looked inevitable. They looked exactly like the team that was going to make another deep October run. And then May happened. Quietly. Slowly. Like watching something break in slow motion without quite being able to pinpoint the exact moment the crack appeared. Judge's offensive production dropped. The home runs dried up. The numbers declined in ways that nobody could fully explain publicly because nobody was yet saying what was actually happening. He was in pain. He had been in pain since April. Since a diving play in a game against the Houston Astros. A single defensive play that most fans probably do not even remember because it was not a dramatic moment, where something happened to his right side that he chose not to report and chose not to sit out and chose, instead, to play through because that is who Aaron Judge is. A competitor who does not want to leave his team without its best player. He played through it for a month. A month of at-bats. A month of defensive plays. A month of running. All of it happening with what the Yankees would eventually announce was a stress fracture of the first rib on his right side. And when the pain finally reached a point that it could no longer be managed or hidden, when the Yankees finally pulled him from the lineup on May 31st, the press conference that followed was one of the most tense and most revealing moments in Aaron Boone's tenure as Yankees manager. Boone announced the injury. He described it as a stress fracture in the first rib on the right side. He said it would require a period of rest and limited activity. He said Judge would be reimaged in approximately 4 to 6 weeks to determine the level of healing and appropriate next steps. Standard injury language. Careful. Controlled. Designed to inform without panicking. And then the reporters started asking follow-up questions. And one reporter asked about the medical specialist overseeing the diagnosis, a Dr. James Pearl, reportedly a vascular surgeon based in Texas. It was a reasonable, professional question. Exactly the kind of question medical reporters ask when a franchise player goes down with an injury serious enough to require a vascular surgeon. And Boone's response was not what anyone in that room expected. He fired back. Literally fired back. Was my opening not good enough? Those 6 words. Said out loud. In front of cameras. To a reporter doing their job. Now, here is the unexpected twist that nobody is connecting. Why is a vascular surgeon involved in a rib stress fracture? Stress fractures are typically managed by orthopedic surgeons or sports medicine physicians. They are bone injuries. They heal through rest and sometimes surgical intervention depending on severity. A vascular surgeon, a specialist in blood vessels, arteries, and the circulatory system, is not the standard medical specialist you bring in for a routine rib fracture. Their involvement suggests the injury has a vascular component, something affecting the blood vessels or arteries in the region. And the first rib, specifically, the first rib, the one closest to the top of the rib cage, the one nearest to the subclavian artery, and the cluster of vessels and nerves that run through the thoracic outlet. A stress fracture in that specific rib in a baseball player can, in certain presentations, create complications involving those nearby vascular structures. The medical literature specifically documents a condition called thoracic outlet syndrome, sometimes related to rib injuries in overhead athletes, the kind of repetitive overhead throwing and batting motion that baseball players perform thousands of times across a season. The Yankees have not said anything about thoracic outlet syndrome. Boone has not said anything about it. No official medical statement has addressed it. But the presence of a vascular surgeon in a case that would otherwise involve an orthopedic specialist is the specific detail that makes Boone snap at a reporter. Was my opening not good enough? Feel less like frustration and more like fear that the right question was being asked at the wrong time. That is the thing nobody has put at the center of this story. And it is the thing that explains every other piece of what has happened since. Because look at what happened 4 weeks into the recovery timeline. The expectation from the initial announcement was 4 to 6 weeks. 6 weeks would put Judge back around mid-July. But 4 weeks into that timeline, Yankees reporter Brian Hawk asked Boone directly about Judge's progress and whether he was nearing the next stage of his recovery. And Boone's answer was the most alarming sentence he has said about this injury since the day he announced it. He said, "I don't know. We're probably not ready to go down that road yet, with where he's at." 4 weeks into a 4 to 6 week recovery. Not ready to go down that road. With where he's at. If the recovery was going normally, if the bone was healing at the expected rate, if the 4 to 6 week timeline was tracking, Boone would not say we're not ready to go down that road yet. He would say something like he's progressing well, we'll have a better idea soon, we're cautiously optimistic. The language of managed, on-track recovery. Instead he said I don't know, and not ready to go down that road. That is the language of a manager who has received information from the medical staff that the recovery is not tracking the way anyone hoped it would track. The big lead called it an alarming medical update. They said it certainly wasn't the encouraging news Yankees fans were hoping to hear. They said when the initial timeline is 6 weeks, and 4 weeks and you are not even ready to be evaluated, it's hard not to think worst case scenario. And they're right. The math does not work. If the bone was healing normally, the evaluation would be happening right around the 6-week mark as scheduled. The fact that it is not even ready to be evaluated suggests either that the healing is significantly slower than expected, or that there is a complication that is preventing the standard evaluation protocol from proceeding. Now let us put all of this in the broader context of what has been happening to the Yankees as a team during Judge's absence, because the on-field consequences of losing him are a story unto themselves. The Yankees have been one of the best teams in the American League. 40-26 through the early weeks. Division lead. October momentum building. And then, the losing streak. A 7-game losing streak that the Yardbarker described as the worst since the 2023 season, the season when the Yankees missed the playoffs. 7 straight losses, swept by the Boston Red Sox in 4 games. A 6-2 extra inning home loss to the Detroit Tigers that prompted Boone's most publicly honest moment of the entire season. "It's been a terrible week for us," Boone said after the Tigers' loss. "There's no way of sugarcoating it. We're capable of way more, obviously. Look, you're going to have stretches where it's tough, where you're missing some guys. But this was a really difficult week for us offensively, and coupled with not playing clean enough and taking care of the ball well enough, that's what you get. You get an awful week. That is a manager who is not spinning. That is a manager who has run out of comfortable things to say because there are no comfortable things to say right now. The Yankees are losing. The most important player on their roster has been out for a month. The recovery timeline is not tracking. And the manager who usually handles media pressure with practiced ease fired back at a reporter asking a medical question and could not give a straight answer about when the best player in the American League is coming back. Aaron Judge himself made an appearance during the losing streak that added its own layer of complexity to the story. He called out his teammates. Publicly, he said there was a little lack of focus. A 3-time MVP, sitting in street clothes, watching his team get swept by Boston and then lose to Detroit, deciding that the moment called for accountability rather than silence. Which tells you something about how Judge is experiencing this injury period internally. He is not at peace with sitting. He is not in a comfortable recovery mode. He is watching his team stumble and feeling the specific helplessness of a competitor who cannot do anything about it from the bench. The historical parallel that the Yardbarker specifically surfaced is the one that should genuinely concern every Yankees fan who reads it honestly. In 2023, when Judge suffered a torn ligament in his big right toe, the Yankees went from 35-25 before his injury to 54-48 after it before he was able to make his return. 19 games above 500 before Judge went down. 6 games above 500 in the weeks that followed. And ultimately, despite Judge returning, the Yankees failed to make the playoffs that year. The 2023 injury did not just cost them wins during the absence. It cost them the season. The 2026 situation has some meaningful differences from 2023. The team's record entering the injury was stronger, the division race has not fully closed, and the trade deadline gives Brian Cashman opportunities to add pieces around whatever lineup exists without Judge. But the directional parallel is impossible to ignore. Judge goes down. The Yankees start losing. The manager starts saying things he would not say if things were going well. And the questions about whether the team can sustain its October trajectory without its best player start looking less like fan anxiety and more like legitimate organizational concern. There is also the specific question of what comes next at the trade deadline. Yardbarker specifically noted that it is too early to know which teams may be willing to offer the Yankees some help in the form of a trade. But the specific need is obvious. Without Judge, the Yankees' offense is significantly diminished. The lineup becomes more manageable for opposing pitchers. The run production drops in ways that the pitching staff, however good, cannot fully compensate for over the length of a playoff run. Brian Cashman has assets. The Yankees have prospects. And the trade deadline in late July represents the specific organizational moment where the front office either doubles down on the belief that Judge is coming back healthy and in time to make a difference, or acknowledges that the roster, as currently constructed, is not equipped to compete at the highest level in October without reinforcements. The word Boone used when reporters pressed him on Judge's return is the word that keeps coming back to me as I go through all of this sourcing. Confident. He said there is pretty strong confidence that Judge will be back and fully healthy. Strong confidence. Not certainty. Not confirmed. Not we have a specific date. Strong confidence. In a baseball season that runs through October. For a player who has been out since May 31st with a stress fracture in a rib involving a vascular surgeon. Strong confidence is the language you use when you genuinely believe the outcome you're describing is likely, but when you also know that there are things in the medical picture that you cannot fully control and cannot publicly commit to. Judge himself added one more detail that landed harder than almost anything else in this story. He told reporters he believes the rib injury happened during the April diving play in the Houston series. He played through it for a month. Think about what that means for the healing timeline. A stress fracture that is a month old before it is even diagnosed is a stress fracture that has had a month of continued stress applied to it during exactly the period when rest is most critical to bone healing. The healing clock on a stress fracture that was allowed to continue for a month of professional baseball activity does not start at the same place as a stress fracture that was caught and rested immediately. And that specific detail, a month of unintentional delayed treatment, is the piece that most clearly explains why the 4-week recovery evaluation was not ready to happen on schedule. The Yankees season is not over. Let me be completely clear about that. They still have one of the best records in baseball. They still have pitching. They still have talent at multiple positions. And Aaron Judge, if and when he returns, is still the best player in the American League and the specific force of nature that transforms a very good baseball team into a genuinely scary playoff machine. The season is not over. But it is in danger. Real danger. Danger that Aaron Boone snapped at a reporter, his "I don't know" when asked about the recovery timeline, his "it's been a terrible week" admission after the 7-game losing streak, and the increasingly vague language around Judge's return date collectively described in a way that the official organizational messaging has been unable to fully contain. A month of hidden pain. A vascular surgeon. An evaluation that was not ready to happen on schedule. A 7-game losing streak. A manager who is not sleeping well. And a franchise that has been here before, 2023, 35, and 25 before the injury, postseason dreams evaporating in the summer heat, and knows exactly how quickly the comfortable position can become the desperate one. Aaron Boone made his admission. Not in one dramatic moment. In the accumulation of all the small moments, the snap, the "I don't know," the "not ready to go down that road," the "terrible week," the "we're capable of way more." All of them together. Painting the picture that the individual quotes were designed to obscure. The Yankees need their captain back. They need him healthy. They need him now. And right now, the most honest answer to the question of when that happens is the same answer Aaron Boone gave when he was asked about it directly. "I don't know." That is the complete picture of the shocking news hiding inside Aaron Boone's admissions about Aaron Judge and the Yankees season. The hidden month of pain. The vascular surgeon nobody explained. The recovery not on schedule. The 7-game losing streak. The manager who has run out of comfortable things to say. This story is not finished. It is moving. And we will be right here when the next chapter arrives. Stay subscribed because this one is going to matter in October. Disclaimer: this video is made for entertainment and informational purposes only. All content is based on publicly available media reports, press conference transcripts, and sports journalism at the time of production, including reporting from the Big Lead, Yard Barker, Pinstripes Nation, Clutch Points, SNY, and ESPN. This channel has no affiliation with the New York Yankees, MLB, Aaron Judge, Aaron Boone, or any individual or organization mentioned. All medical speculation in this video is based on publicly reported facts about the specialist involved and is not a confirmed medical diagnosis. All commentary is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult trusted sports outlets for verified information. Thank you sincerely for watching.